Thank you, Jonathan. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to focus on the evolution of Al-Qaeda. I'm going to focus on the epicenter of international terrorism, which is the Afghan-Pakistan border. But let's look at the structure of Al-Qaeda at 9/11. So at 9/11, Al-Qaeda organization was led by bin Laden, and today it is led by bin Laden. And they had 6 committees. The military committee was led by Abu Hafs. Abu Hafs was killed November 2001 in a predator strike in Kandahar. Sheikh Said, who is the head of administration and finance of Al-Qaeda, he was killed on May 15th of this year in an attack in Fatah, in the federally administered tribal area, which is in tribal Pakistan. Sheikh Said was a former bookkeeper in Alexandria in Egypt, member of Al-Gama al-Islamiyah. And if you look at the profile of both these people, they are very competent people. Abu Hafs was a former policeman in Egypt. Dr. Ayman al-Zawahiri, who was the head of the media and the information committee of Al-Qaeda, medical doctor, came from a very prestigious family in Egypt. And today his son-in-law is heading the media and information committee of Al-Qaeda. Bin Laden headed the political committee, and the religious committee was led by Abu Hafs al-Murithani, and now he's been replaced by a Libyan. And what is interesting is both the head of the religious committee of Al-Qaeda and the security and intelligence committee of Al-Qaeda, that is Colonel Saif al-Adil, they're both in detention in Iran. So 2 members of the original consultative council or the command council of Al-Qaeda, 2 members have been killed, 2 members are alive on the Afghan-Pakistan border, and 2 people are in detention in Iran. So Al-Qaeda has suffered significantly, but Al-Qaeda is still capable and able to mount attacks. Every member who has been imprisoned here in Iran or in Gitmo or who have been killed has been replaced. So Al-Qaeda maintains a very high capacity to replenish their human losses and their material wastage. What is interesting is that the senior leadership of Al-Qaeda, they are all Egyptians. So Abu Hafs is an Egyptian. Sheikh Said, that is Abu Mustafa al-Yasid, he's Egyptian. Dr. Ayman al-Zawahiri is Egyptian. Saif al-Adil is Egyptian. The only 3 people who are non-Egyptians, Osama bin Laden, Abu Hafs. So you can see that most of the key leaders of AQ have been traditionally Egyptians, but more recently they have been replaced by people from other nationalities. We are seeing in terms of the fighting cadres, mostly Pakistanis, Uzbeks, Tajiks, Afghans have filled the ranks of Al-Qaeda. If we look at the military committee of Al-Qaeda, Al-Qaeda's military committee had the primary task of the military committee was to mount terrorist attacks. The Al-Qaeda name for terrorist attacks is Special Operations. So Special Operations was a combination of the Security and Intelligence Committee and the Military Committee of Al-Qaeda. Colonel Saif al-Adil, he was a colonel in the Egyptian military. He, together with Abu Hafs al-Masri, they headed the Special Operations Department of Al-Qaeda. It's a subcommittee within the military committee. And you can see some of the key people who formed a part of that organization. So Khalid Sheikh Mohammed, the 9/11 mastermind. Here you can see a picture of Khalid Sheikh Mohammed, KSM. He was part Pakistani, part Kuwaiti. He studied in Greensboro in North Carolina in the United States. He earned a degree in mechanical engineering, and his experience in the United States gave him the knowledge to plan, prepare, and execute operations in the United States. If we take Khalad, his real name is Tawfiq bin Atash. He was head of administration of all the Al-Qaeda operations. Abu Zubaydah was not a member of Al-Qaeda, but worked very closely with Al-Qaeda, and he was a Palestinian who had a Saudi passport, studied in India, very briefly visited the United States, and had very significant experience. Al-Nishiri, who was head of maritime operations of Al-Qaeda, Again, he was of Yemeni origin, but lived most of his life in Saudi Arabia. So you can see that primarily Al-Qaeda, until quite recently, was primarily an Arab organization. But now we are seeing a very significant shift, particularly a number of Pakistanis have joined this organization. If you look at the Security Committee, led by Colonel Saif al-Adil, you can see the structure. The primary function of the Security Committee was to collect intelligence, to protect Al-Qaeda leaders, and that is the security detachment guards, their primary responsibility. And also they facilitated operations. So in terms of spying, in terms of secret operations to recruit, secret operations to assassinate, maintaining the archives, doing the research and analysis, it was the primary function of the Security Committee. Many of these people who are illustrated here, Swendan, Gailani, they were in charge of the East Africa operations, the Kenya and the Tanzania attacks. And their most important man in East Africa, he's still alive, and his name is Harun, Fazul Harun. All of you may remember Israeli chartered plane was attacked in Mombasa, where the Israelis nearly, that plane was nearly destroyed. Fazul Harun was behind that operation. He's from the Comoros Islands, chain of islands very close to Réunion, near Madagascar. And Fazul Harun is now the Al-Qaeda liaison for the groups in Somalia and in the Horn of Africa. This is the media committee that Dr. Ayman al-Zawahiri headed. And he is no longer head of this committee, but in many ways he understood the importance of integrating the computers and the use of the internet and introduced new media technologies to Al-Qaeda. Today, his son-in-law heads this particular committee, and he's from Morocco. He trained as a software engineer in Germany, and every 3 days, Al-Qaeda produces a videotape accomplishment that no Western government or no Muslim government is able to compete, and therefore it is very difficult for other governments to counter the propaganda produced by the media committee. Let me share with you one of the media units of Al-Qaeda that was captured by the Pakistani army in a few minutes' time. These are some of the key members that staffed the media committee. You can see that although they were in the media committee, they also were members of the military committee. For example, Muqta or Khalid Sheikh Mohammed was the 9/11 mastermind. Khalad was head of administration of Al-Qaeda operations. Mustafa Ahmad al-Hawassawi was the man who wired the money to the 9/11 hijackers from Dubai. And Anas al-Libi was a military committee member as well. This is Al-Shahab, Al-Qaeda's media wing. You can see some of the videotapes, audio tapes, computers, and publications that were recovered. There are several such units that are like this and active. I would in many ways say that Al-Qaeda has moved from being a key operational organization that would conduct attacks, into a training organization and a propaganda organization. So in many ways, the biggest shift in Al-Qaeda we have seen in the last 9 years is a shift from being able to do military operations into inspiring and instigating other groups and other individuals, as well as training others to do attacks. Letter from Bin Laden to Taliban. About 15,000 Taliban members today are working with Al-Qaeda and with the Afghan Taliban to do operations both in Pakistan and Afghanistan. This is the structure of the admin and the finance committee. And Sheikh Said was head of it, and he's now been killed. And you can see a very vast infrastructure. The real name of, the Arabic name of this committee is Finance and Investment Committee. This is the location of Al-Qaeda. You can see they mostly operated on the Afghan-Pakistan border, a border of 1,520 miles long. And using that border, Al-Qaeda conducted number of off-the-battlefield accounts. They also targeted aviation, land transportation, the hospitality industry, and they supported many of the battlefields from Afghanistan, Pakistan, Iraq, Yemen, Somalia, southern Philippines, and other jihad arenas. If you look at the London attacks, the 7/7 attacks, two of the leaders of the 7/7 attacks, that is They were both British Pakistanis, and they both came to Malakand, and Muhammad Siddiq Khan and Shehzad Tanvir, they both left Britain, arrived in Malakand, which is in the tribal Pakistan, and trained in the use of homemade explosives. And let me share with you some of the material that they used. They were trained in TATP and HMDT, so the 7/7 attack was using HMDT. HMDT can be manufactured with what is commercially available. So it's very difficult to ban the use of hydrogen peroxide because it's used to dye hair, sulfuric acid or acetone, which is used in nail polish. So you can see that Al-Qaeda's speciality is to move its homegrown cells in this direction to build bombs using what is commercially available. So we have seen a significant transformation from the use of military-grade explosives to commercial explosives and now to homemade explosives. Al-Qaeda itself calls these two compounds, HMDT and TATP, as the mother of Satan. All of you know how unstable Satan is, Satan is, and you can imagine how unstable Satan's mother is. So in many ways, many Al-Qaeda operatives died transporting this material and also manufacturing this material. These are the 7/7 attackers: Muhammad Siddiq Khan, Hasib Hussain, Shehzad Tanvir, and Jermaine Lindsay. These are the 7/7 attackers. They are going on a bonding trip to Snowdon, to a place in Wales, where they went and they spent time. The reason I show this slide is because I remember before 9/11, whenever we used to present to our American colleagues and we would talk about suicide terrorism, they would ask us, do they take drugs before they go and do a suicide attack? It was very difficult for the US to understand that ideology was so powerful motivator for these groups. Let me look at a few of the attacks, and let me share with you some of the attacks that AQ inspired, instigated, or conducted in the aviation domain. This is Generation 1 shoe bomb that was used by Richard Reed. And I want to share with you a second generation shoe bomb picture that is still restricted. But I think that I have no problem of sharing that particular picture with you. This is Richard Reed. He tried to bomb the plane from Paris to Miami. This is his partner, who was also arrested in Britain, in Gloucestershire. This is second generation shoe bomb developed by AQ cell in Thailand. This cell was disrupted because of good work between the Americans and other Southeast Asian intelligence services. And they could not use the shoe bomb to do an attack against a target in California. So what happened was Al-Qaeda cell mailed this shoe bomb to the United States, and it was fortunately detected at the Carson's mail facility in California. Technology worked finally. But let me share with you, this shoe bomb, the purpose is different, because as you know, after 9/11, all the cockpit doors were hardened, 400 to 600 pounds of metal. So this shoe bomb is basically it is like this. You take the shoe and you attach the shoe to the cockpit door, okay? And then it is activated by remote. So it is to gain access to the cockpit. So this is the latest innovation. And you can see the effects of this type of shoe bomb in a plane if it was used to blow up the plane. So this is just 200 grams. This is basically the network that was responsible for mounting attack very similar to the 9/11 attack, but the attack plans originated in Asia, but because of the excellent security and intelligence cooperation, this network was disrupted. But the network continued to fund many attacks in Asia, including the Bali attacks, the JW Marriott hotel attack in 2003. This is a very rare picture of Khalid Sheikh Mohammed as he was woken up from his home in West Ridge in Islamabad in Pakistan. This is the Al-Qaeda plan to hit this particular building. This is called the Bank of America building. It's also known as the Library Tower. President Bush, he briefly referred this operation, and he said that Al-Qaeda was planning to attack the Liberty Tower in California. But as you know, there's no Liberty Tower in California. It's the Library Tower. So I want to share with you that this operation was disrupted because of very good cooperation. The idea to attack this building came from a film called Independence Day. You can see this is a shot of Independence Day. So the Al-Qaeda got this idea from a film. This is the Mombasa attack, Al-Qaeda attack. They used SAM-7s, but Al-Qaeda also had access to SA-14s. They attacked Neptune Paradise Hotel, where a number of Israelis were staying. They also attempted to attack an Israeli aircraft. The terrorists also attacked the most beautiful hotel in Pakistan. It is the Marriott in Islamabad. It was my favorite hotel. In fact, we spend a lot of time there. But I want to share with you that they used an extraordinarily powerful device to attack this target. The standoff distance was more than what the standard stipulated for US diplomatic missions. But the bomb basically burnt the hotel. Polish ambassador was killed. This is the hotel being under fire. He was the mastermind of this attack. So together with Taliban, Usama al-Kini, who was the man responsible for East Africa operations, he mounted this attack. But fortunately, he was killed. The American drone program is an excellent program. And I'm a strong supporter in the drone program because of the drone program, it was possible to eliminate many of these key leaders. And it is a program that should further develop and continue. The number of civilian deaths have reduced dramatically. Initially, the drone program, drone strikes killed a very large number of civilians, but it is not the case today. This is Al-Qaeda in Fatah, the federally administered tribal area. I visited this area twice, including a more recent visit. So I will share with you some of the operations. These are Al-Qaeda hideouts as seen from overhead imagery. But as you know, counterinsurgency from the sky is not very successful. It's important to have more troops on the ground. That is why this battle will last a very long time. So Pakistanis suffered very significantly. These are the casualty figures in the last 2 years. But there's also significant lack of development in tribal Pakistan. This is Pakistan, the tribal area, South Waziristan, North Waziristan, Kuram Agency, Oroksai, Khyber Agency, Moman Agency, and Bajor Agency, where Dr. Ayman al-Zawahiri lived for a very long time. Some of the development projects, very rugged terrain. Very severe injuries because of the use of air power. Let me conclude my presentation by saying that US withdrawal from Iraq and likely withdrawal from Afghanistan will embolden the global jihad movement. So today the threat is not from Al-Qaeda itself. Al-Qaeda presents a much smaller threat than it presented in the past. Today the biggest threat comes from Al-Qaeda, its associated groups. These are 30 to 40 different groups from Asia, Africa, Middle East that worked with Al-Qaeda in Afghanistan and now in tribal Pakistan, and the homegrown cells. So the global jihad movement has three components: co-Al-Qaeda at the center, the associated groups, and the homegrown individuals and cells. So the threat in many ways has multiplied and has diversified. The second is that in addition to Iraq and Afghanistan, many Al-Qaedas have emerged in Yemen, in Somalia, and we see Yemen and Somalia emerging as key arenas of jihad. I was in Yemen last month, and I want to share with you that only 35% of Yemen is under government control. So it is an area where Al-Qaeda is likely to grow in strength and influence in the coming years. Somalia already, Al-Qaeda associate group has very significant control. The threat to the West will persist, but the primary threat will be to Western interests in the Muslim world. So in our assessment, Western nations will be able to protect their interests, their own home countries, because they have built very good systems, intelligence structures, but the threat is likely to grow in the Muslim world. I think that in the coming years, these groups will become much stronger in the Muslim countries. And finally, I want to say that in the fight against terrorism, it is crucial to build partnerships with Muslim governments and the non-governmental organizations and the Muslim communities. Without the support of the Muslim communities, without the support of the Muslim non-governmental organizations, we will not win this fight. I thank you very much.